Well, hello, ALBW, wherever you are. Really happy to be back here in the striped shirt. And looking forward to telling you a lot about some things that are going on at ALBW. And also, we have some other things that we're going to be talking about. And I have a very special announcement at the end of our live stream to talk to you about a special guest who's going to be joining us at ALBW. So not everybody doesn't start running in the wrong direction. No, it's not Saran or Sophie. So let's all bring that down a notch, but it is somebody very special. So before we get started on the rest of it, did you happen to purchase ticket 200? That's the coach and walking tour of Fairfax House and York Minster, which will include a walk down to Holy Trinity Goodrum Gate, where Anne and Anne took the sacrament. Now, interestingly enough, we just discovered that this tour is taking place on the anniversary of the date that Anne and Anne took the sacrament together. And we found this out because Holy Trinity reached out to us and to let us know that they're going to be serving cake. So if you bought that ticket, congratulations, because you're going to really get to celebrate Anne and Anne. And if you haven't purchased that ticket, buy one now. All right. So let's get started. We're going to bring in our first guest. This is Laurie Shannon from the Anne Lister Society. Hello, Laurie.
Hello, Pat, and hello, ALBW.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Just another lively morning at ALBW Live. So
that's the way we like it.
Exactly. So, Laurie, let's talk a little bit before we get started on this year's ALS. We received some terrific feedback in the comments, and I just wanted to read a couple of them for people who didn't have the opportunity to see that. People said they especially enjoyed the inaugural ALS days. The scholarly component really inspired another one of our visitors, and the AL Society and the scholarly papers. And the one that I really loved was integrating the Anne Lister Society conference into ALBW was a fantastic idea. It enabled the event to be truly collaborative and didn't put off any non-academic researchers from attending and contributing to the discussions. And I really loved that, didn't you?
Honestly, that was my favorite of all the responses. And as you know, Pat, when Sally first started imagining the Anne Lister Society, her vision was for a gathering for serious conversation about Anne Lister.
Right.
And as we've been putting it together over the years, it's 3 years now since we first started those conversations. Yeah. One of the core goals was to, on one hand, get academics talking about Anne Lister to get her over into the curriculum and get her the attention she deserves in sort of the traditional corridors of power and academic discussion. But we were also very focused on the unique phenomenon that is Anne Lister. It can never be only academic. And so the serious conversation was always envisioned to bring in everyone who is as dedicated as so many of us are to Anne Lister. So the fact that that people who aren't academics, but who were in the audience, and there were a few also on giving papers, felt completely included in conversation, of course, was a major goal of mine. Yeah. But what ALBW folks may not know and may be surprised to learn, the academics felt exactly the same way, which is to say, when do we academics get to give papers, the freshest research we have, to, often we give these papers to 10 people and half of them are like, oh, I thought this was the modern poetry panel. Right. This was a unique benefit to the academics to be able to have dialogue with people who, in many instances, know as much about what Anne Lister was doing in any particular period as we do. So that part of it was completely reciprocal. And I feel, gratified, but I'm not that surprised because I think the divide between academics and non-academics is almost always overestimated because it's a little spectral in both directions. So very gratifying. And I know a lot of the collaborations and conversations that started in the conference last year have continued with exchange of information and, that sort of thing. So that's all very gratifying.
Yeah, I just want to add one little comment onto that. When you first started talking about the fact that in any of our presentations, quite often, the thing that's most challenging now, 4 years on after Gentleman Jack, is that it's difficult to walk into a room and talk to people who've come to your presentation that may not know more than you do, right? I mean, it's the audience is always full of people who've been doing their own research, have been involved in other programs, and it's really very exciting. And yet the one single thing that this is me personally saying this, that I find important about the Enlister Society and the scholarly direction that it takes is, it's one thing for people to find out about Enlister, wind up on our Facebook groups, whatever, where they can engage in conversation. But the academic side is what's going to push it out into the curriculum to people who have never heard of her before, to people who have never heard of Gentleman Jack before. And that's where the true growth of Ann Lister is really going to happen, is once we can get her into that curriculum. So I would agree with you on that. Can you tell us a little bit about the presenters for this year?
Absolutely. So last year we had 13 presenters. This year we're going to have to stay hydrated and keep up a fully Ann Lister pace because we've got 18. Wow. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And both last year and the meeting ahead span all career stages, as well as people who are not academics are participating. So we've been very focused on maintaining that all along. So we've got some grad students and we've got some heads of school. It's all across the academic career range.
Right.
And it's also very international. We'll talk about that in a minute. There are several presenters who want to come back. So there are some alums from last year. And of course, mostly it's plenty of new voices. And the thing to underscore is that that's a day and a half of 100% new research, new thinking that's emerging on Ann Lister across several disciplines. So that kind of exchange across disciplines and exchange across career stages is crucial to the larger goal of making sure we get Ann Lister into the institutional places where she deserves, I hate to say needs,
deserves,
right? Where institutions will be lucky enough to understand that they need to recognize her. Right. And so, we're also very focused on younger scholars, early career researchers who are going to help us in the future. And we're thinking about how does this legacy get deeply sustained.
Right.
And so just in general, the scope of the kinds of speakers that we have is answering that question.
It's really exciting. I'm looking forward to being able to attend it for the first time this year. So.
And we're looking so much forward to giving you a huge hand, and thanks for all the support that you give to ALS, which I should say to your listeners would be impossible without Pat Estes, as so many things would be. I'm happy, Pat, if you want me to say just a quickie on like what the panels are, or
yes, sure. Go
ahead. We've got 5 panels. I won't dig into like exactly everybody's paper, but the first one is on like thinking through Ann Lister's pragmatic approach to fashion. Sort of, we know about her gender interventions there, and linking that to her investment in Shibden Hall as a form of identity as well. So those will go together in the first panel. The second panel is really an interesting combination of legal and medical questions that complicate our understanding of agency. This panel is going to engage Ann Walker's medical agency.
Oh, wow.
It's going to involve a close look at Ann Lister's actually probated final will. I should have mentioned also, your viewers will know Angela Clare, who is at Shibden Hall. She's going to be also participating in that first panel.
Great.
And we're also going to be talking about, in the context of Ann Lister's legacy and her own attempts to secure it, the contemporary Sally Wainwright effect in securing it. We have a panel. We put out a special invitation for topics, proposals that think about Ann Lister in relation to all her significant others. And so we have one panel fully dedicated to it, and lacing through, we have Ann Walker, we have Eliza Rain, we have Frances Pickford, we have Isabella Norcliffe, we have Sabella McLean and the Ladies of Llangollen, and of course we have Mariana. All of those folks all those papers will look at Anne in relation to her landmark others. This year, we didn't get any papers on Mrs. Barlow. So maybe next time we'll say the focus is on Ann Lister in Paris and see if we can, make a thread of that kind.
Yeah.
On the second day, then, we have the first panel is actually on contemporary creative responses to the Ann Lister story. And so we'll be talking about graphic novels and organ sonatas in that panel.
Nice.
And then the final panel is the queerest panel of all, with queer text, queer subtext, and queered sex, just to keep everybody awake in the second day. So those are sort of the flavor of the panels. I'll say a little bit more maybe about the keynotes. 3 keynotes across the 2 days. Those are by a novelist, a literature scholar, and a historian. All of the modalities of thought that we think are really central to beginning to sort of grapple with Ann Lister as a phenomenon. The first is Emma Donoghue, who needs little introduction to this audience. Emma is, of course, a novelist, a screenwriter, a literary historian as well. She did a keynote last year where she presented her preliminary research on a historical novel about Eliza Rain. We're really ecstatic to be presenting the world premiere reading by Emma Donoghue from her forthcoming novel called Learned by Heart.
Oh, wow.
So that'll be happening. That's by video. She's got a crazy schedule, but we're ecstatic to have that happening at ALS. The second keynote is by Professor Roz Ballister. She's faculty board chair of the English department at Oxford University and a major expert on fiction, theater, and women's writing in the long 18th century. Her talk isn't going to be limited to the 18th century, though. It's going to be focused on adaptations in representing women writers in contemporary media. It's called Adapting Anne.
Wow.
And there'll be some comparative stuff. Those of you who know your Jane Austen movies will probably find some references to that in that talk as well. And then the final keynote on Saturday is by Professor Anna Clark. Now, I think a number of folks involved with ALBW may well know her early essay. Anna Clark is a historian who's been writing about Ann Lister prior to Gentleman Jack. First essay, I think, is in 1996, which is early. But she's going to be presenting all new, pretty fascinating research on, I think she won't mind me describing it this way because she did herself. Why did it take Ann Lister so long to discover the clitoris? So that will be the capstone.
Wow.
And focus on Anne's scientific and anatomical researches and how that plays into her self-formation and so on. So we can promise great papers on a host of subjects. And to me, the most exciting thing of all is that all of it is brand new.
Oh, it's really exciting, Laurie. What a great lineup. That's the first time I've heard, what's going on other than a few drips and draps that we've talked along the way. So that's exciting.
Yeah. And I should have advanced given you the link to the program online,
Yeah.
but you can post that in your chat later or something like that.
Yeah.
Folks, it's on the Ann Lister Society webpage, which is hosted at my university, Northwestern University in Chicago. So please check it out.
We will make sure that gets out there. And then, of course, Sally Wainwright is scheduled to join us for the reception, so that'll be fun.
In fact, Sally's expecting to attend the whole thing. She was pulled away from some of it last year because she had to do emergency filming on Happy Valley. I think we all know that was a good thing for her to be doing. But she will be there. Certainly, she plans to be there, stipulating her schedule is always crazy. And she'll co-host along with you and me the reception that evening.
Yeah, it'll be great. Be nice to see her again. Okay. And then you and I are going to be doing a panel together during ALBW that should be near and dear to every Save Gentleman Jack warrior. Representation matters, pathways to lasting media presence. And we're going to do a lot of talking about why it is we can't seem to get LGBTQI plus programming to stick. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So we have good attendance for that one. And I'm looking forward to the conversation that goes on, not only with our speakers, but with the people that are in the audience. And we have some nice people, there's some great people joining us for that.
Yeah, we absolutely do. And just so people know, Pat and I have been thinking about it would be great to have an event that's co-sponsored by ALBW and ALS together. And we wanted to bring to bear on this question that has, I think, occupied all of us since events of last June with the non-renewal of the show. And we thought it would be really great to get together experts in the field, but a variety of kinds of expertise. So in conversation with Pat and I, we will be hosting Elizabeth Versace. She is CEO of Strong Coffee Productions, and Elizabeth knows a lot about not the production side in the sense of the film, but the production side of how do you do the fundraising, the corporate forms that have to be created to make it happen. So we're really excited about what she brings to the conversation. We are going to be speaking with Fiona Thompson, who is the Yorkshire chair for the Royal Television Society. Pat's going to say another bit about Fiona in just a second. And the third expert who's going to join us as an academic expert, her name is Professor Beth Johnson. She is deputy head of School of Communications at Leeds University nearby. Yeah. And she studies the politics of televisual and filmic representation. Not only that, she was just down to give testimony on this subject in Parliament a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
So she is connected to the question of the political significance of academic research into questions of representation and visibility that are so important to all of us. And that Gentleman Jack did such a sort of supernova intervention with respect to that.
Yeah, that's it's really terrific. I'm really looking forward to that panel because I love a good discussion. So, Laurie, we're going to ask you to go back behind the screen because we have a few other things to talk about. We have another guest coming on, but Laurie will be back for the Q&A session. And thanks, Laurie. Speaking of Fiona Thompson, she is chairing this upcoming event, celebrating Gentleman Jack, Changing Lives. That's co-hosted by the Royal Television Society and Film and Media at York St. John University. They'll be screening the documentary that those of you who attended ALBW last year and went to the film night, you'll be seeing that very moving documentary again, Gentleman Jack, Changing Lives, that the BBC commissioned. And the panel will then be joined after the meeting by advocates involved in the Save Gentleman Jack campaign. So some of the people that have been actively working, and so many of you have been really great about retweeting and getting involved in that campaign, they will be actively involved in this workshop, and I couldn't be happier about that. The work that they've put in is just phenomenal. Kelly Greiner and her entire gang, and Jennifer Van Gessel, who's our producer now, is also involved in that. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, so now, if you want to join the event, you don't need to buy a ticket. You won't be able to see the documentary online. That may not be important to you if you've already seen it, but you'll be able to join the live Q&A. So do feel free to jump in on that, because that's where a lot of the information about what's going on with Save Gentleman Jack, et cetera, is going to be happening. Okay, next up on this list of many things, Jill Liddington. Just a reminder, Jill has a new book coming out, and I am very excited about this. Jill has done her usual very thorough transcription work, and she's looking in on the 2 years, 1836 to 1838, after Anne has died. Anne Lister and Anne Walker are in Shibden Hall on their own. They are actively working on the estate, et cetera, and she takes us like a fly on the wall through the diaries to talk about what's been going on in those situations. So a whole new spotlight to shine on that part of Anne Lister's life. So that book is coming out. Jill and I will be chatting about it a little bit in one of the workshops where she's going to be doing a book signing. But we are also recording an ALBW live with Jill later on and that one is sold out right now. But you'll have a chance to see what happens when we're live on screen. So I'm woohoo! And I don't have my bookcase behind me. Okay, now moving on. Name tags. I know I've made some announcements about these. I want to remind you to come. I got to make sure I got this thing turned around the right way. To come to ALBW Central to pick up your new name tag for 2023. As you can see, it is different than 2022. So a little thing to add to your collection. If you do have a lanyard already, bring it and bring the pins and badges that you had. There will be all sorts of new ones to add, by the way. So that always becomes kind of a fun little collector thing. Now, one other thing about these badges. The Peace Hall is actively working on discounts from vendors within the Peace Hall if you show your badge. So that could be something as easy as picking up your sandwich that you want to bring over to the K-Gill rooms for to have lunch with your friends, and all sorts of other things. The Peace Hall is a wonderful place and full of lots of great vendors. So something to look forward there. So make sure you pick up your name tag and your lanyard. Let's see. And next thing up, I have been asked to mention this. You didn't even have to ask me, because trust me, I had COVID 3 weeks ago. I don't want to get it again. So I am asking you to bring your masks. I am asking you to wear them when you are in an enclosed room. And I certainly hope that you will have your vaccinations updated. The New York Times came out with a story about 2 weeks ago that said that the vaccinations should typically last, especially for these new strains, should typically last for about 3 months. So check and see when your last vax was, and see if you can get one organized for yourself, just to be on the safe side. I can tell you that the fact that I was vaccinated kept my COVID down to basically a dull roar. So happy to say, because I wasn't looking forward to that. Now we're going to talk a little bit about t-shirts. Our official 2023 ALBW t-shirt with our fireworks. And you'll note, because we also have a new cloisonne pin that's coming out for 23 that will use this same image. And as you will see, we are celebrating both Anne Lister and Anne Walker at ALBW 2023. And we're putting our money where our mouth is. We're putting it right on the front of the t-shirt. So you can pick those up. Oh, excuse me. Cheryl's going to be coming out with an order form sometime in the next week or so. You will be able to order your t-shirt. You will be able to order it in the size that you want, and you will be able to pick it up at ALBW Central when you come to get your lanyard and your name tag. One very important point about these particular t-shirts: you will not be able to order them online and have them shipped to you someplace else. These are going to be made in the UK, and they're going to be sold in the UK at ALBW. We have absolutely no way to ship them from ALBW. The store that we normally use only really ships to the United States, and that was a problem. So moving on to the next subject, which is other t-shirts. The ALBW Shopify store is going to be opening up again in about a week and a half. And we have some fun t-shirts up there, ALBW t-shirts, that have been done by ALBW members. Specifically, when we asked for people to submit their ideas, Jill Prestigiacomo submitted several, and Barbara, and there's one of Jill's. And Barbara Borgo also submitted one. They were our two winners. So you'll be seeing a selection of their t-shirts in just the regular unisex. You'll also see a V-neck, women's V-neck, and you'll see a long sleeve t-shirt. So for each one of the designs, those we can ship all over the world with no problem because we're using a service that does that. If you've ever ordered anything from the Shibden After Dark store, you'll be familiar with Printful. They're the ones that ship and then, print and ship on demand. So we figured out a way to get stuff to you. So I'm happy about that. All right, now let's move on. Oh, yay. It's time for one of ALBW's staunchest supporters, a tremendous ally and a very dear personal friend, Rachel Lappin, Calderdale's Visitor Engagement Officer and Ann Lister Brand Coordinator. And there she is. Hello, Rach.
Hey, Pat. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Oh, yeah, I'm good. It seemed like ages waiting there in the green room. I wanted to come out and say hey to you and to our ALBW friends wherever you are. Good to see you. Good to see you all.
Always. Rachel, are you okay?
Can you see me? Can you hear me?
You're freezing on my end. Are you still on? Are you
okay? Tech issue, same old. Yeah. I'm still on the pad. I can see and hear you just fine. But okay, welcome to.
I can hear you just fine. So we'll go right ahead here. Rachel, Calderdale has done a phenomenal job every year. There's a ton of activities going on throughout the week of ALBW, and I really want to congratulate the Calderdale team. They have knocked this so far out of the park. It's still rotating around the earth. So thank you to you and your team, Rachel. Let's talk about a few special things within our allotted time because there's so many going on. First of all, you've got this Ann Lister Ball going on at the Todd Warden's Town Hall. Tell me a little about that.
Yeah, I mean, Pat, I'll just echo first. You're right. I went to my Calderdale partners early and just said, what can you come up with? You know, we want all the goods before Christmas so we can share the programme. My God, did they come up with the goods? So thank you to my Calderdale partners for coming up with over 70 events across Calderdale. That's not including your ALBW ones. So yeah, the Todmorden Town Hall and Lister Ball. What could be more exciting than an Ann Lister Ball in the magnificent sort of theatre of the Todmorden Town Hall, a spectacular building architecturally. It is close to Halifax. It's about a 25-minute drive, and they are, thanks Jen, yeah, really, really beautiful. You can see inside there. On the Friday evening, the 31st of March, no dancing experience required. Don't worry if you can't dance, it's okay. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a really exciting event. You can come and practice in the afternoon, free of charge. Once you've paid for your ticket, obviously you need to buy your ticket first, but if you have a ticket, you can come and practice between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. All of the dances will be called, so you'll be taken through them all, so you haven't got to worry about being able to dance. The fantastic Pemberley players will be playing the music for it, and also included in the price will be a cold buffet. Dietary requirements will be catered for, and water will be provided as well. For all that energy you'll be expending doing your dancing, you'll be able to get water, and there'll be a bar too.
And people are coming in costume.
All in the
people are coming in costume, right?
Yes. I mean, dress. Dress code, period dress 1790 to 1840, obviously. Guess why? And listers, sort of dates preferred, or your own interpretation of it. Richard McFarlane, head of museum service here at Calderdale, is looking forward to seeing some people's interpretation. Obviously, if you're coming from the States and going to the ball, you might not want to carry your full period dress. Although I have to say, from last year, some of our friends, you know who you are, did bring your period dress. And every day last year we were saying, my God, what's she going to be wearing today? And my God, she did wear something different every day. So if you're out there watching and you're coming to the ball, I know you won't let us down. But yeah, just your interpretation of it. So you just wear whatever you're comfortable in. You won't be judged on what you're wearing, but I think you'll be judged on the amount of fun you have. And I think that will be a great evening. So see you there, Pat and Bren, okay? You're on. We'll see you.
Oh, you're going to make me put this on tape. Okay.
Yep, good. Yeah, I reckon.
Okay, so now, but Halifax also has its own spectacular town hall, and you've put together a really interesting event for that.
Yeah, well, that I have to give total credit to our wonderful, wonderful friends at Halifax Heritage Tours. Chris, Pat, you'll know that was set up by the wonderful, our dear friend Chris Harris and her colleagues Sue Hanson and Danny Dolan and Liz Kenny, and Halifax Heritage Tours have set up as a non-profit making organisation to share their utter love for all things heritage in Halifax, and to make sure that people don't forget it, but also have an opportunity to share and to enjoy it. And of course, one of the most important buildings we have in Halifax and across the whole of the borough of Calderdale is Halifax Town Hall, and Jen's just shared that wonderful picture of it. So Halifax Heritage Tours have organised several. They've got several events. You'll see in the programme there are walks and there are talks and there are tours, but they've also got these fantastic visits to Halifax Town Hall. I think they've got them over a couple of different days, the Saturday and the Monday, but then on the Tuesday and the Wednesday, if you're in town a little bit early, the Tuesday the 28th, Wednesday the 29th, you can have a really special visit to the town hall, because you will be greeted by the mayor and you can have tea and scones, hopefully in the mayor's parlour, which will be a real treat. The mayor's parlour isn't usually open. In fact, at the moment, the town hall itself isn't open to the public. It's a sort of pretty special occasion that we're managing to get it open, so you can go into the town hall and you can have a tour with Halifax Heritage Tours, and on a couple of days, the Tuesday and Wednesday, you can actually go and have tea and scones, or scones, depends on which part of the country. Scones, I'm a scones girl, but you can have scones or scones, but yeah, come and have tea and scones. I can hear my mum saying, scones, where did you get that from? But yeah, tea and scones in the in the Lord Mayor's parlour with the mayor. So yeah, thanks to Halifax Heritage Tours for that wonderful addition. That's exciting.
Now we have, I mean, I hate to make it sound like we just have a lot of teas going on, but this is very cool. Harvey's of Halifax. And before we go into what you're doing at Harvey's of Halifax, let me just say something about Harvey's. Harvey's is a family-owned store that's been in Halifax for a very long time. And if you're looking for something when you get to Halifax that you've forgotten your striped shirt, whatever it is, Harvey's is the place to go and check it out. They have a wonderful selection over there of lots of things besides striped shirts.
Yeah.
But what are they doing?
Yeah, I mean, they do, Pat, and thank you. I mean, that is a great plug for a great. It's an institution in Halifax. I mean, a department store in Halifax really is quite something. I mean, we've lost department stores across the country through the last sort of couple of years, and no doubt we'll be losing more over the next few years. Harvey's really is an institution. It's fourth generation business now run by the fabulous Tracy Harvey, and it started in the 1920s. It's been on this site on Rawson Street, which many of you will know, of course. Rawson Street, boo hiss, the terrible Christopher Rawson was right opposite Harvey's. They moved to where they are now in the 1950s, so long after Christopher had gone. I think they waited for his smell to disappear before they moved to their current site. Beautiful building, fantastic place to go and shop. But after the restaurant has closed, their wonderful restaurant, which is quite renowned in the area for, it's a super place to sit and watch the world go by. It closes at 3 o'clock. And on Monday the 27th and Wednesday the 29th of March, the first couple of days of the Annalista Birthday Festival, they will be opening exclusively for Annalista Birthday Week, Annalista Birthday Festival afternoon teas. And I think for the very, very modest price of £14.75, you can have tea or coffee with your afternoon tea. But for a mere £2 extra, for £16.75, you can have a glass of Prosecco. So what's not to love in the fantastic setting of the restaurant of Harvey's of Halifax? And thank you. Tracy Harvey rang me a few weeks ago and said, Rach, I know your program's really, really busy, but please can we fit something in? Because I'd love people to come and have afternoon tea at Harvey's. So I'm really pleased that she's been able to do that with her brilliant team there. We've been able to fit it in, and I hope that people will go and enjoy it.
And let me just add this, because speaking straight from the heart, I've had a wonderful time putting ALBW together with my team. But I have to tell you, the connections and the friendships that I've made in Halifax and being amongst the people of Halifax, I've just never met any group of people like that. I mean, they've been so welcoming. They've been so friendly. They've been really great to our ALBW visitors, both during the event and people who just come in that aren't related to ALBW. Getting to know the people of Halifax should be high on your list of being there during ALBW. It's like, I call it Brigadoon, and there's a reason for that, because it just kind of, appears out of the clouds. All right, now there's one more event I want you to give us a little detail on, because this is one I really want to take part in. Go. It's the stone carving.
The West Riding? Yeah, the stone carving. Oh my God, the stone carving. This is brilliant. I mean, would Annalista not just want us all to take part in this? And would she not want to do it herself if she hadn't been dead for 180 odd years and still be taking up most of my time? This came about because a few weeks ago, I got the chance to go to the West Riding Stone Carving Association, the wonderful organisation that I have to admit I wasn't familiar with before, I'm ashamed to admit, went along, and they said, we will teach you to, we'll teach you to carve a stone rose in a day. And I thought, nah, you're not going to do that. And Helen, the tutor, obviously heard me mutter that under my breath when she said at the start of the day that 6 hours time you'll have produced a stone rose. And I was sort of, now wait, and she's like, yeah, you will. And 6 hours later, I had indeed produced a Yorkshire stone rose. So in the course of 6 hours on Tuesday, the 4th of April, and so the day after the sort of the ALBW and the birthday festival finishes, you have the opportunity to spend a mere 60 quid for 6 hours of, and if you're running a bit late, that's okay, Helen will be patient with you, but you'll be able to have the opportunity. I'm hoping this might work. Look, this is the one I made just a few weeks ago. It started as a piece of stone. It started like that, okay? And there's got a mud on it. It's been outside in my garden, but it had a outline drawn on it of a stone rose, and I thought, yeah, that looks pretty. And 6 hours later, I kid you not, I had made this.
Oh wow!
Can you see it? Precisely.
Now, wow!
I mean, how amazing! I'm amazed I made that. I'm really impressed that I made that. Yeah, it's the Yorkshire rose, Pat. It's an actual. Yeah. Exactly. I made that. So honestly, on that day between 10 and 4, you'll start with that, and oh my God, it hurts your shoulders a little bit, let me tell you. But 6 hours later, you'll walk out feeling it's about 3.5 kilos. So factor that into your luggage allowance if you are travelling. But 6 hours later, you'll walk out holding that, and if you're anything like me, you'll be feeling pretty proud of it, because I have to say the sense of achievement was amazing. And I said to Helen there, I was chipping away, thinking I've got to put this into the festival. The programme's full to bursting, but I've got to put this in because people will love it. So yeah, thanks for the shout on that one, Pat. I think it's a wonderful opportunity, and hopefully people will
hold on a
to it.
Jennifer has just reminded me that I skipped over one of the images that I want to make sure, right? I'm going to warn you all in advance. I'm about to put a QSR code on the screen. So if you want to snap a picture of it with your phone, go ahead and throw that up, Jen. There we go. If you want to snap a picture of that, that will take you right to the Annalista Birthday Festival 2023 events. So you'll be able to them. Yeah, you'll be able to see everything that's going on. So
yeah, and also
what's that?
On that web link also, you've got all the, I'll say on that web link as well, you've got all the detail, and you've also got booking information. So how and where to book your tickets are all on that website. It'll tell you what the event is, when it is, where it is, and click here for how to book tickets. So all on that site.
Okay, I have one last question for you. You and I talked about this a little bit the other day, so we'll work through it. But people have asked me, we're offering a coach tour over to Wakefield to the Ann Lister In Her Own Words exhibition. And several people have asked me, why would I go to Wakefield versus just going down to the archives and seeing what the archives lays out? And believe me, Anna, Ruth, and Jenny will have things out that will make you feel as if you really have gotten much closer to Ann and Ann. I mean, it's phenomenal to see these things in person, and that's great. But there is a larger exhibition over in Wakefield that covers much. It's an exhibition space and not just a room, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's it, Pat. You've just kind of hit the nail right on the head with one of the West Yorkshire West Riding Zone Association's chippers. It's an exhibition. Halifax in the search rooms. It's the search rooms. It is the place where all of the Shibden estate archives are housed. And as part of that, as you mentioned, the wonderful Ruth and Anna and Jenny, our fantastic friends and partners from West Yorkshire Archive Service, will have out on display during the festival. Yeah, big shout out to them. They really are fantastic partners, allies and friends. And yeah, they'll have out on display during the festival some examples of Anne's diaries, her journals, her travel journals, her letters. They'll have a selection of things out for you to see in Halifax. In Wakefield, it is an exhibition. It is a purpose-built sort of exhibition, and you will have big display panels. You probably can't see, my hands are way below the camera, but big display panels on the wall with a whole host of information. You'll have sound displays where you can press a button and you can hear through the headphones sort of sound. You will have there's a certain tapestry on the wall there, which is very clever. And if a certain somebody's listening here, I'm still mighty impressed by that, and has blown when I first saw it. You know, it's an exhibition. It's very different, and you can't compare the two. There are also diaries and journals on display at Wakefield, still in the cases, so you'll get that as well. But if you can do both, do both. One is an exhibition at Wakefield, and one is the search rooms where the searching takes place, kind of does what it says on the tin, and where some diaries will be pulled out and put on display for the duration of the festival. So I hope that explains a little bit to our friends who might be coming along the difference. If you can, go to both. Okay.
Rachel, I have to kick you off again so I can get my last announcement done before we bring you back in for Q&A. Okay? So I promised you that I was going to be making an announcement about somebody very special that's going to be coming to ALBW. And I want to, before I tell you who it is, because no, it's not Saran or Sophie. Starting way back in 2019, when all of us first started to learn about Ann Lister and we first came together as a community, there were several people out there that were really critical to our learning and our knowledge as we moved from Gentleman Jack into the real Ann Lister. And one of those people has been missing in action for a couple of years, but she's coming back. Ann Choma will be joining us, hi Ann, at ALBW, and she will be in the Minster with us on Thursday night. So if you haven't bought your ticket for the Minster evening, again, I can't underscore this enough. It's Jill Liddington, Helena Whitbread, and now Ann Choma has also informed me that she is going to be coming. So it's going to be a really wonderful night of celebrating everybody who has brought us to this point, but it's also a night for us to celebrate us. We're going to be talking about how Ann Lister has changed our lives. Whether it's the program, the person, the community, whatever it is, I think it's really hard for most people, especially those of you who are listening right now, to say that Ann Lister has not had some kind of really significant hit on your life. So I want to celebrate that this year. It's a phenomenal thing that's been created here. So let's give it the credence it deserves, and let's certainly applaud and honor the people that brought us here. So get your ticket. Okay. Oh, and a book signing that night as well. So boom. Now we're going to go to Q&A. And we're going to bring Rachel and Laurie back on screen. And I am going to look at the notes that I have been sent by Brenda this time, not Cheryl. Brenda, you've done an excellent job here. Okay. This is from Patricia Book. Laurie, I think the creation of the Ann Lister diary text by the code breakers, especially those doing the final work before posting, is a process worth researching for the benefits of archival research. What do you think about this, the creation of an accessible text? Oh, what an interesting question, Laurie.
Obviously, it's absolutely critical to any of us saying anything about Ann Lister. And one of the strange features of much of the research that has managed to go forward is that often people need to limit themselves to a swath of the diaries, because you can't cover the whole thing, because in a lifetime of single individual, you could never transcribe it. Right. So, some people are very, very focused on the material text. They want to work on the actual diary, the pages. There's research to be done about the physical text and diary practice and so on. But let's take a scholar like me, I'm really interested in the history of ideas. I'm interested in how Ann Lister adapted pre-existing ideas to make the case for a life like hers and so on. And every time I give a talk about Ann Lister, I always know there could be even better evidence in a place I haven't seen.
Yeah.
There could be counter evidence, that's worse, obviously, in a place I haven't seen.
Yeah.
And, there might be two people on the planet who have actually traversed the entire thing with their human physical eyes, but you couldn't remember it all in any case. So the process underway at West Yorkshire Archive Service is not only, an award-winning engagement of volunteers at an archive. It's won an award for that already. But the legacy of that project is it's going to generate the text, searchable text, legible text for those of us who want to read it at a larger scale, without which without which you can't really begin to talk about the kinds of long threads that are across a life, let alone such an exemplary life.
Right.
And the historians in a way got to Ann Lister first, and the literature people like me are a bit more hampered because we don't have the proper text. Well, now we will. It's in our sites that we will have the text. And, I never miss an opportunity to present my case and my reasons for it, of saying, in some ways, Calderdale and Halifax, history suddenly gave them their Shakespeare.
Yeah.
As a Shakespeare scholar, I'm allowed to make that comparison between Ann Lister and Shakespeare.
Yeah.
But I really strongly have advocated that the diaries, properly understood, are just an emerging masterpiece in the history of English writing. And so, Ann Lister as a writer is part of what we are still really struggling to grapple with. And the West Yorkshire Archive Service is doing God's work in that regard to get the text. And, it takes a village. It takes 180 volunteers to do it. So bless and thank them for it.
Oh, thank you, Laurie.
Thank you.
And yeah, absolutely.
Code breakers,
archives. Okay, so moving on, because there's actually more comments than I thought there would be. This is from Kay Pollock for Laurie. Are the 2 days going to be, don't worry, I'll get one for you too, Rachel. Are the 2 days going to be recorded, as I am attending day 2 only and would love to see the day 1 panels and talks?
I get this question often, and it's something that isn't easy to decide how to handle the idea of broadcasting a conference. First of all, I know it would tax ALBW's technology a fair bit to try to broadcast the whole thing or record it. The other thing that is important for people to understand is that sometimes scholars they want to try out preliminary ideas. That's what conferences are really about, is getting some new stuff out there. And they may not, I know I have on some occasions given live online things, but I didn't want them recorded because that's not my last statement on this subject. And especially for junior scholars, that can be an issue to have an early version permanently in the interwebs forever. You may change your mind. That's the other thing. I know it is an incredibly important value to be able to reach people that can't always come to a physical place.
Yeah.
And so for folks who follow us on Twitter or on Instagram, I do my level best to especially convey information about everything I know about that will be online. So in the future, and we may, I mean, every year is a bit different, and we may be able to do somewhat more of that. But I can just finish by saying, as a teacher, I can tell you some of the best things happen on the way to class and on the way out of class.
Yeah.
And that sense of gathering and that kind of to and fro and picking up the thread tomorrow, because I thought about this, you said yesterday, what about X? In our world of every other kind of constraint, it felt meaningful to try to keep that kind of conversation, to go back to Sally's keyword, to keep that conversation vital and enabled.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, it's a conversation that Laurie and I have had going on now for, actually several years. And I completely understand where she's coming from on this, and I agree with her. So, but it's a conversation we will continue to have. We'll see what we can do in the future. There just isn't anything set up for it right now. Okay, Rachel, I got one for you. Is there going to be a shuttle this year?
Yes, there is going to be a shuttle. I don't know if this is someone who was here last year or someone who would just benefit from one if they come this year. But yeah, as with last year, we are planning on having a shuttle bus again. We're working on the finer detail, but it will run, all being well, every day of the festival. And it will run once again from Horton Street, which is just outside of the Peace Hall. So really, really, really in the centre of town. It will go to Dean Clough, to Bankfield Museum, where there's quite a lot of things taking place, and to Shibden Hall. And it will run on a loop throughout the day, going to those three sort of venues, and then come back to Horton Street and then sort of go again. So the short answer is yes, there will be, and it will be on a loop throughout the day, going to Dean Clough to Bankfield. Dean Clough being where the Travelodge Hotel is, for anyone who's staying there. A lot of people used it for that last year to take them to and from the hotel. So yes. Excellent.
Thank you. Let's see. Now, Steph McStee's comments. Really? How will I explain that Yorkshire Rose to TSA on return? Steph, you live in the UK. Why are you dealing with the TSA? I'm not sure I understand the question, so I'm sorry. But at least, when you're coming through to America, I don't.
I would say it's not a volatile substance.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you don't take it out of your suitcase and threaten somebody with it on the airplane, you're in good shape. Yeah. So, all right.
Yeah, check it in. It'll be fine.
There you go. This is just a comment. It says, if you missed that QR code, Catherine Ann Harris posted a link to the Calderdale events in the Q&A chat. So while you're looking, if you can see the comment section down below there, you'll see that that's been. Maybe this is why this got screwed up. Okay, this is a question from Steph McStee for Rachel. Ready, Rach? Steph wants to know.
I don't know. I don't know what this is.
Is Flat Pat coming back?
Flat Pat is actually in my room right here as I speak. She is behind the seat that the cat is fast asleep in, so I can't produce her. But it's a tricky one, Steph. Hey, Steph, really good to hear from you, by the way. Hope you're doing good, and hopefully see you in a few weeks. Flat Pat, I'll have to discuss with the real Pat. Obviously, Flat Pat made, appearances literally every hour of every day last year in the absence of the real person because, well, she decided to duck out at the last minute, didn't she? And we all know about that. She will be here this year, come hell or high water.
That's right.
So in theory, we have no need for a Flat Pat this year.
However,
but
you have to bring her.
Whether
I'm intending on
there
having
you
her
go.
there for a few things. So the answer to your question is yes, Flat Pat will be back,
So
but
Steph,
we're not going to make Rachel carry her everywhere. Okay, and then this is a question from Faith Everhart for Rachel. Will there be shuttles to and from Halifax to Todd Morton for the Enlister Ball?
So this is obviously there might be a bit of a white elephant in the room. Certainly our UK friends may be thinking there's a train strike. Yeah, didn't they time that well? I'd never get me to read your fortune because I had predicted that they would do it the weekend after, which was Easter weekend, just because it would cause more difficulties. Now they decided to do it our ALBW ALBF weekend instead. So the train strikes have been announced for the Thursday and the Saturday, the 30th of March and the Saturday, the 1st of April. So the ball is on Friday, the 30th. So there isn't a train strike that day, but for anybody in the UK, you will be aware that the day between the strikes can also still be affected, particularly for the early morning trains and the later in the evening trains. The ball is due to run from 7 p.m. till 11 p.m. I will be talking with my colleagues, both at museums who are organising this event and who I work extremely closely with, but also really importantly with my colleagues in the railway service who I also work very closely with through my job, and I'll be figuring out what time the trains are likely to be running until. Ordinarily getting to and from Todmorden when the ball finishes at 11 at night wouldn't be a problem. There's a brilliant train service that runs throughout Calderdale, throughout the valley. I'll be working out what difficulties there may be, and then from that, Pat and I will be picking it up to see whether there is a need for ALBW to step in and to support our friends from ALBW who may be going to the ball with getting there. So will there be a shuttle bus? We're not certain yet, but we're looking at the logistics of it, and if need be, Pat and I will be picking that up and organising it if we have to, Pat. Yeah,
it's definitely on our radar screens, not to worry. Brenda has posted two more. Oh, she just did another one. Okay, I've got one more question and then we really have to wrap up. This is from Vera Messina. Will there be any accommodations to the departure time for the Shibden tour to allow for attendance at the flower laying at the statue? I don't have an answer for you right now. It is something that's come up as a question. We are working to see how we can put that together. So please don't get freaked out about that. We'll figure something out, okay? All right. So, because we're all looking forward to the flower laying. Okay. So there's
a quick, I just sent in the link for the full schedule of the ALS conference so people can.
Oh, okay.
Great.
Jen, go ahead and just leave that on the screen for a few seconds here. And then I'll just put in this filler that Brenda has always sent, has also sent me. She said that I should thank the audience for their comments about it being so lovely to see me with my energy back. My energy's back. My voice isn't all the way there, but I'm really excited about this. And also many comments evidently about my very cute hair. So thank you for that. So, it's a process and it's trying to figure out where it goes every single day. Anyway, Laurie, Rachel, thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm going to let you go back behind the screen. If you want to hang out for a minute when we're done, you can do that, but you're done. Okay. Thanks, guys. So First of all, there is another ALBW Live coming up on March 11th, and we're going to be talking about several more events and several other announcements at that time. That's March 11th at the normal time, 12 Eastern Standard. One of our guests is going to be Christine Sanders, who's going to be talking about the performance of women. Her poem that some of you took part in last year. Well, she's got another section to it, and she said the people that have reached to her about performing in it have been phenomenal. So I'm looking forward to talking to her about that. I want to thank today's team, Jennifer and Brenda, very much. Thanks for doing this. And to wrap it all up, I will see you in Halifax. Be well. Thank you.